got the books in 2008. All right, when he got the books from 2008 to 2011, 2012, James West thought Dr. York was Afro Unu. He pushed that more than anybody.
All we said was Dr. York's has been known by people who believed he was affiliated with that name. People believed he was Afro Uno. So at the time we thought he was Afro Uno.
Right.
Well, exactly.
Oh yeah, and at that time, you know, during that time, that's another thing Grand Kush explained. He said when people first started getting put onto the Nature books, everybody thought that Afro Uno was Dr. York back then, because nobody else could do who the hell he was, and it was so similar.
Exactly, and Dr. York is also associated with the name Afro Uno. He's associated.
Right.
With the name.
See, secondly, the name Afro Uno was always associated with Dr. York, as well as Amanubi Rakta. So Dr. York referred to himself as Amanubi Rakta, and Afro Uno and Amanubi Rakta are synonymous together. So it only stands to reason that we thought Dr. York was Afro Uno.
Eugene Brown is Afro Unu, who was on the obituary, and he passed away in 2011. So check this out. We didn't get the books till 2008.
Right.
2 years later, Afro Unu passes away, but we didn't get the obituary in 2015. So from 2008 to about 2012, 13, if you was familiar with the books, then you thought that was Dr. York naturally, like Taharka said. He pushed that more than anybody. Okay. 2014, he was still talking about Nuwapu in a positive light.
All right, true to cause of peace in wartime. Let me make this real clear. When we was speaking against what is known as Nuwapu, we're not talking about the BIAE definition of Nuwapu. All right, Nuwapu is defined as sound, right, reason, infinite information, knowledge. That's Nuwapu. The same definition as Noon. It's all correct information. When we talk about Nuwapu or against Nuwapu, that means we was talking about what York was doing and labeling it Nuwapu. All right? Everything that York was doing as far as going into religion, all that stuff is anti the BIAE and the Nine Ball. And the Nine Ball has a section on it talking about the purpose of religion. All right, so all you have to do is just read that and you see for yourself. So let me be clear. He's saying I was still talking about positive about Nuwapu 2014. Again, there's a separation between what Nuwapu is defined as and what York was doing. So let me be clear. So we're gonna go to a post that I did in April 27th. All right. So I'm be very clear, because all he does is lie. All right. In this post, we will address how York has lied that he was Amanubi Rakata and brought Nuwapu since 1967. All right. See, I'm making a distinction. However, we know this wasn't true and has been exposing this information since 2014. See, so 2014, right, when we came back to Facebook, we have been making a distinction. The same way I had to make a distinction between Nooniboos that follow sound, right, reason and Noon science, and then false Nooniboos who was following York, mixing Noon information within York's religious versions of different type of ideology he taught. That's what we were doing, right? Still doing that. All right, information is 2014. See, debating against the Wapians from that time until the time of this writing, after we started releasing facts from the Schomburg Center in Harlem, New York, and conversations with Afro Unu's wife, and York eventually released a letter that he was not that Amanubi of the BIA in 2015. So York has contradicted himself after lying since 1990, saying he was Amanubi. Then York misspelled Amenubi Rakapata to further distort the facts. Then when me and Anu had went to their Brooklyn bookstore in 2015 and debated them on Johnny Eugene Brown, rest in peace, was Afro Unu, right? That's when we spoke with Earl and the rest of them, and they swore we were lying and that we were making it up. However, 2 to 3 years later, Afro Unu pops up in their bookstore on their wall, pretending as if they had not been using his name and using his books to sell their books. Eventually, under pressure, Sabians released their book, giving Afro Unu credit for bringing the Wapu. They should have came out and did a public apology to his family and us and to black people in general for their lives that York gave to them, knowing he was lying and stealing from another great Ethiopian black man. So take these screenshots and see the facts and spread them around. So here we go. All right. So you got this book, The Wapu, Amenubi Rakapata, Fact or Fiction. Once again, number one, the word Nawabu is not in those older books. So that right there is another distinction and deception that York was doing. So when we speaking what he's referring to as positive, that's only about separating what Nawapu is written and defined as. But this is speaking about Nawabu or anything that York was twisting. All right? You can see it from yourself. Got a picture of York pretending. Once again, costumes. All right? What is Nawapu? All right? This is the proper way it was spelled in the books in the 60s and the 70s. All right? It's showing you where York was distorting the name. All right? And he's lying that he was doing this far back in 67 when he was in jail, prison. So these are lies. And these are all the books you can find on Chuck's thewapinism.com, but these are the places where York claimed he brought Nawapu. Those of y'all who know, you can go get What is Nawapu, The Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti, The Right Knowledge, The Luciferian Conspiracy, and in the Book of Light. And you can see right in the credits in those books, he claimed he brought all this stuff back then, telling lies. All right, this is where you can go there. Ask Nawapu why there's no mention of Amenubi Rakapata by Malachi prior to 1990. All right, you can see in the Man from Many Faces book that Taharka and some other people was writing, put Afro Unu name in there, and still misspelled it. Then York released a letter. Next thing, they're gone. I asked why and told some lie, when in fact I am not the Amenubi of the BIA, but the lie, you told the first lie. See, these are the things that people need to understand, right? This is scapegoatism. I am not the Amenubi of the BIA. I'm just a messenger sent to renew truth. That's all. He is the head of Nawabu, which we already know is Afro Unu. But when this came out, this was after we had been beating Nawapian so bad. Shout out to Devin Willingham that York had to come out with the facts, right? See, he's subtly giving Afro Unu credit here when he say he is the head of Nawapu, one of the elders who guide my pen. This is just York saying he's a plagiarizer. He's using somebody else's information, and he's trying to act like they guiding his pen as if they had some mental or spiritual interaction with York, when that's not the case. Afro Unu already wrote, and his pen was already guided by his own intelligence and sound right reason, and the spirits and the orbs that work with him in certain portions of the book. So nobody needed York to reestablish that and then cook the information and remix it and do what he was doing. So all this is lies. So when we spoke about the positivity, we talked about I'm clarifying because I'm the one that's being lied on here, is that we are making sure the information maintain its purity and showing the separation between what was there and what York did, but then York had to eventually backtrack and give it up and said, one of the elders who got my pen, I am what people want me to be. That means you again are lying, but you pretending. Once again, you pretended to be who you want other people to believe you to be. A prophet, a messenger, a god, a son of reptilians and all this other stuff he was claiming. He said, I did not write BIAE or behind the nine ball, only renewed it. So once again, you go back just for clarity, right? He just said right here, I introduced the public in the Western world as far back as 1967. All right? So everybody knows York said he wrote those books. So this is a lie. All right? Just showing you how the names are spelled. So all these is lies. All right? And here's the book again, just for clarity. They saw, as of the year 2000 AD, what I began to teach was unlike any other black leader. Another lie. So they watched and waited to see if it's Wu Sabat. Then it says they knew about Nawapu of Afro-Uno. See, he's jumping here. He's jumping. But we know that the Noonie Bulls are being referred to right here. They knew about Nawapu of Afro-Uno. He was 1 year, did not have all the answers. His teaching, nor a language. All this is lies. Okay? So the point is, saying that I spoke positively, I'm clarifying that we're speaking positive about the actual facts. The facts are what's positive. The lies was negative. All right? Here we go again. Afro-Uno's up in the temple. See, you got to understand, when you're dealing in a moon society like America, anybody that tells the truth is considered the liar. And the liar is considered telling the truth. So once again, all of this stuff would have never occurred had we not came back to Facebook in 2014 and moved as a unit to get the truth out there. This is how it is when you're trying to bring forth information. The facts are immediately deemed the enemy, and we were treated hostile. But we know for a fact that they lied and eventually had to correct themselves without making a real big public statement about it, but they should. Like I said, they owe a lot of us for all of the issues and problems they caused us on this particular topic, and the slander and just the constant attacks and battles, even to this day. Just a clear picture, just up close. And these some of the, especially got Yahweh being Yahweh out there. He talked about Yahweh being Yahweh like a dog. And then threw these people pictures up in here. Same thing with Martin Luther King, spoke against all these people, said marching ain't gonna never get us nowhere, blah, blah, blah. And what they was doing, marching. This is called hypocrisy, all right? This is when me and Anouk went into the bookstore in 2015 and had a conversation for about 3 hours with Earl, Pharaoh, Sakina, one of the Triad members, I think Mental Hotel. The whole store was in there. I told you, filming us in their phones, and they never put it out because it was deception. So they can never say that we did not walk up in there prior, 2-3 years prior, before they put out the facts that Afro-Uno brought Nawapu. We was in there. We walked in there, talked with them. There was no arguing. There was no hating. It was all, all love and conversation. There was no disrespecting or nothing, because we're not like that. We the ones who had to be hostile online because of the lies that York told and people trying to defend somebody they didn't know nothing about. So that's not our fault. All right, the scapegoating, the time for that is over. All right, this is evidence. See, unlike Garu, he's talking and writing on the board, but he's not going to provide y'all no facts.
So he left Facebook. He got into it with A Nova. A Nova made him take his name down.
So let's get into another section of this. Well, I keep telling you, you cannot tell my story better than I. And so, once again, these people, you're lying to your audience because you're trying to make people think that you know what the hell you're talking about. Your timeline is not based on conversation that you had directed with me. You're trying to remember certain stuff, and the weed is destroying your brain cells. All right, number one, I left Facebook and started spending a lot of time with the Nun Project around 2011. And this was after, let me see, the Destiny stuff and the Wingmaker stuff. And me and Anova made contact, I think, through Facebook. I think I hit him up and we spoke for a little bit. And then I got back with them about 2012. And so what I did was I took some time off of Facebook to get more into a group type setting, because it was really nothing going on the net, just a whole bunch of craziness and back and forth, whatever, and people just doing their own thing. And so I spent a lot of time with Nun Nova, Anova and they family, and that's when I think around 2013 we had went to visit Anova for his marriage. We went to his wedding and all of that. So when we made contact on the phone, because I was still in the Bronx, and we had a conversation about my name, one of Nupa. It wasn't Anova, it was all of us talking. And they were bringing to an attention about it wasn't that it was something wrong with me having the name, as if it was like outlandish. They were just saying that the number naming would come at a later date, and that based upon that fact, I should change my name based upon a quote in the nature books. All right. So what I want to do, let's see, is get to that, because that is important that we deal with that. I'm gonna go into another section of my life and my Mary J. Blige voice. Once again, you were not there. You only going by second and third hand information. You were not there. I keep telling you. All right, so let's get to this whole thing. This is a document I put together in 2014. No, this is before that, because we had about 2013, because this one we had this whole thing with Anova and what happened with his house and all this extra stuff like that. And like I do, once I go through an experience and I do my hindsight, a lot of times I write about it. So this is a lot of stuff I had questions about that me and Anova went through. And once again, because Anova has not stepped up and took responsibility and took certain things and put it in perspective, his past is keep coming up because somebody else is utilizing the fact he didn't say anything to their to further their narrative and agenda. But because I keep a record of a lot of stuff, none of that's gonna help this guy. All right. So once again, Anova, thank your own self for not stepping to the plate, because the whole thing will stop if you just go ahead and show your face, admit you made a mistake, and move on, because this guy is doing it to you now. Y'all can't scapegoat me for that. All right, so it was a lot of things that we dealt with, and I'm gonna go into this right now. So this is a section of what I wrote, and we're gonna go to the part right here. I dealt with this here. Subject one of Nupu, Upu, and Afro Unu. So let's deal with that. Introduction, Nature, Book 2, second page is 232 to 233 says in part, listen to reason. The people of the Ethiopian True Culture Society have names by numbers, meaning the name of person number 1 is Unu, person number 2 is Upu, person number 3 is Uku, person number 4 is Uru, person number 5 is Usu, etc., etc. These may or may not be the actual names for the first 5 people of the population, but the writer is giving examples of how number names run in Noon society. So this is speaking about what may take place, will take place in true culture after the cataclysm. All right. Now, listen to Sound Right Reason. Now, when we all had met via the telephone, the very first time, 2011, and the second time, 18 months later, 2012, I was questioned about my name and how I received it. I answered based on the nature quote cited above. I was accused of trying to usurp the first begotten's title because on certain books I referred to our Kore king as Cypher Nupu. This too was explained that it was based on his introducing the Smat Circle. For me calling Alpha Uno Cypher Nupu was why I was accused of blasphemy, right? The kin referred me to the law blasphemy as proof of my mistake. The introduction to the Nature Book 2, page 264, 395 says blasphemy is falsehood that is forbidden in true culture society, the same way each time their conditions are the same. In nature and universe science, it is true that blasphemy is falsehood or falsehoods about human beings or spirit beings or reason energy. The falsehoods may be positive lies, falsehoods that upgrade the character of the human or spirit or reason, or negative lies, falsehoods that downgrade the human or spirit or reason. Either way, the being has been misrepresented and his or her true character distorted in the minds of the people. Therefore, a blasphemer is one who lies about the character, including power, ability, attention, and positive and negative of a human or spirit or reason. In the society of religion, a blasphemer is one who attempts to set the record straight by unraveling the lies right around the truth. So then in true culture society, blasphemy results from deception, misrepresentation, and also falsehood the blasphemer uses to pervert knowledge, known as correct information. What this message writes can be proven by evident examples and sound right reason. Remember well, listen to reason. Even though law number 6 was not said at the time, this book writer will enter it as well. And it supports the previous law. Introduction to the Nature Book 2, 162. This is me adding this in. I added this law in here. Says in part, never slander a person or race or person, stay in accord with the facts. The same way each time that the conditions are the same, it is evil or wrong to make statements about a person, group, or person or race or person which cannot be verified to reasonable satisfaction. Listen to sound right reading. So that's what I did. See, I not only took what they said in consideration, I also accepted it based on my interpretation and my reasonability at the time. And I even added that in there, that even though I wasn't slandering Afro Unu or Dr. York, but mixing up the identity, because nobody and at this point knew who was who, but just making a incorrect statement. So that's what I made. I made an incorrect statement about a person, right, that could not be verified. All right. So that was me doing that. See, that's what happened when you take responsibility. That's what I did. All right. So we're going to keep going. Listen to sound right reason. Now, based on these two laws, it clears up the fact that I, in a state of ignorance, was wrong in misinterpreting our Kore King Afro Uno. However, the situation and concern of the name I carried at that time was not fully answered to my satisfaction, as why the kin believed I was somehow jumping the gun with using one in my name. Ken Nova said to me at the time that we would in future receive our number names. Listen to sound right reason. Now, based on the nature books concerning number names, it does not state nor describe how people would receive their names, but it said they would have number names. Also, it said these may or may not be the actual names for the first 5 people of the population. Now we can deduce that since Afro Unu as Unu meaning one on his name would indicate that the king or queen of a true cultural society would be number 1. However, the book didn't say who would issue the names or how a person would receive or give themselves a number name. Listen to sound right reason. So I am asking Ken Nova, how is it that you could call yourself Afro Upu when you said to me I had no right to use the number naming until a later date? And on top of that, I was using the English rendition of the name 1. Okay, and it was in front of my name, not at the end. I didn't call myself M Nupu 1, right? Or M Nupu Unu. Like Kyrie and a lot of you clowns running around here putting Unu in your name but y'all Negroes ain't saying nothing about that. But they don't read and study, so therefore that's why they doing the stupid stuff that they're doing. That's why I made a video about Kyrie saying you not Afro Uno, you not Afro Upu, you not nobody. You just a Negro. Alright? Now if we agree that number names will be used in a true culture society at a later date, as you said, how can you assign yourself a number name before then? In fact, the Nature Book 2 does not state that no one could not use number names before a true culture society is physically set up. Listen to Sound Right Reason. I stated then, as I state now, that I dropped the name for unity's sake, not because I was totally convinced by the Ken's concerns why I should not have the name based on number names I mentioned already according to the Nature Books. So the thing is, they had a problem because they misinterpreted what the books were saying. And I'm going to go back and show you something. All right, now, for the record, this subject is not being brought up because I feel I need that name for ego reasons. I do, in fact, love my new scientific name. However, this subject is being revisited because your kin and Nova stated on the chat and phone conversation that you will be known as Afro Upu and no true culture society exists yet. As a matter of fact, when we first spoke on the phone, Ken and Nova asked me, did I mean Upu instead of one on my name? I replied to Nova, is that why you asked me did I mean to say Upu instead when we first spoke in 2011? He said yes, because he was Upu. Listen to Sound Right Reason. The Nature Book clearly states there will be many true culture societies. This means that there will be multiple Upus, second in all of them. So are you claiming Upu for the true culture society we may be a part of? Listen to Sound Right Reason. How can you call yourself Upu second when it is a known fact from the books writers, namely the BIAE, had unnamed writers called Those Who Care, or the Nine-Ball writers, 1971, NEY10, who were Wu Nupu, Asanupu, and Abanupu. Let's not forget Nubi Ripu, who read from the transcript audio tape, 1996, NEY35. Listen to Sound Right Reason. How can you be Upu when these can't predate any of us as far as the knowledge is concerned? Listen to Sound Right Reason. Upu would have existed from this group of which none of us were a part of physically. This is an outright disregard of them who would be in that position before any of us. Listen to Sound Right Reason. However, you seem to think you have entitlement and deserve by birthright to call yourself Upu. The question is, by whose authority do you have to assign yourself as Upu above others who may very well have that title already by nature? Listen to Sound Right Reason. Who gave you permission to reassign people's names, numbers, and placements? All right. So that was the first thing. So this is just giving y'all a little insight of what took place, because this is why a lot of us fall out, because y'all don't like to be checked. No, y'all don't like to be questioned. And this is the problem with these spirits that's inhabiting in black people, that they make sure that we cannot be unified to a satisfactory number. That's why the BIE said nobody has been successful in uniting the Ethiopian in sustainable numbers, because the spirits we got will only allow us to come together under organizations, religions, militias, ignorance, holidays, parties, and death, right? And slandering and all types of foolishness. But when real intelligent people come together, this is the type of stuff that have to be brought forth. You have to have the information, you have to have the reasonability, and you have to be able to take somebody coming to you explaining certain things and using the science. All right, so let's go to the science so we can be clear about what's going on. Now, all right, so we read right here. I read this earlier. This is in book 2, number 345, page 232 and 233. We're talking about, listen to reason, the people of Ethiopian race, true culture society have names by numbers, meaning the name of person, number 1, blah, 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 blah. And they said this may or not be the actual names for the first 5 people of the population, but this writer is giving an example of how number names run in Noon society. This is what Anova, Tarnova, Nuntar, and Ray Nun Ray, right? Which is Renu Bilu, rest in peace. They all was using this quote to try to get me to understand that I shouldn't have been using a number name this early in the game. But again, I told you I dropped the number name out of unity's sake. I was not convinced, and I'm gonna show you why I wasn't convinced. All right, let's look at this right here. What did it say right here? This is book 1, number 202, page 155. Listen to the reason. While on the origin of kinky hair belonged to the Ethiopian race, let this scribe of 9 writings known as Noon disclose a few more facts about kinky hair. The word number is a variant of the word Nubian or Nuba, and of course the word number refers to one or more of the numerical ciphers and digits, 0 through 9, used in English language. Look at this. It said this means that the cipher 0 through 9 digits were created by Ethiopian ancestors on the what? Nile or Nine River in Africa, who call themselves by what? Number names. So that means this was already done. And the last or surnames being the same for all members. So the difference back here was that they had a number for their first name, and their last name was the same for all members. So the number naming already started way back. So what happens is that if they were reading, they would have seen that. See, I knew this, but because I didn't want to get into all this back and forth, I didn't really care. I only used the number name because I seen that in the book, and the 1 just stood for me because I was an individual, and the M stood for male. Okay, and Garu, Lord Abba, Kyrie, Tefnut, Kepra, all of these individuals had number names too. They ain't using their number names, so ask yourself, so who made you take y'all number names down? Once again, this is talking about an ignoramus who's sitting up here, who's giving y'all half-ass information. Ask Garu what his number name was, because Abba was 7 them Nuku, and Kyrie was using the age he was as his number name at the time. So it was a lot of people using number names after I started using them. See, the thing is this, a lot of these people that's being spoken about, Anovenum, all of them see me on the net doing these things, and a lot of people will participate at the same time. And a lot of these cats have God complex and leadership issues. They want to be leaders. They want to be this and that. This is why Nova was calling himself Jesus on the low. And that's why you see me in the video calling Pastor Nova. I got all this information and documents showing what he was calling himself this stuff. Why I'm claiming to be a Nunabu? Because these people are spiritually compromised and they don't understand that. So when I start looking at these things, using the science and my reasonability to question on why you doing this, why you saying that, that's when all this stuff started happening. All right, so once again, Anova and all of y'all past is being resurrected because this mentally dead Negro is looking for anything to stop what I'm doing. So this shows you that a lot of this has nothing to do with what I've done in the past, because it has no relation to him at all. He's trying to find ways to discredit me, disturb and distort the information, and still give it to York, even in its distorted form. All right. So here it claims that number naming started way back on the Nile by our ancestors who created these originals. So they were incorrect. I knew that. But again, I already had my name, Tanun. This was just a number name. That had nothing to do with trying to usurp anything, but they believed that. And if they're honest, Nuntar and Tanova and them would all agree to that, and the Nova would all agree to that. All right? And we can go further on this. Give me a second. All right, now let me deal with what I said to Anova concerning all this stuff with the name. This is from after I start messing with them to me again. This is stuff that I start doing in hindsight. Now watch this. This got emailed to the Noonaboos. You want a part of that? All right, listen to the reason. You get a fail, start wasting your time. You're refusing to get on the phone and answer in real time. You ducked us 2 days running. March 21st and 22nd, 2014. We all agree, Tarnova and Ray Nunray, rest in peace. We do not want to wait on all these lies you keep typing. This is when I was outside of the barber shop. I'm speaking of a conversation when we was trying to hash all this out with Anova. Because all this stuff that happened to Anova was in late 2013, going into early 2014, because he lost his house around wintertime. It was getting cold. So everything we was trying to do was get on the phone and have a conversation so he can let us know what was going on and to apologize and move forward. But he just kept sending messages or having a conversation either with Tarnova or Ray New Ray sometimes. But he didn't want to deal with it. He was ducking. This is just all that was taking place, right? He just kept telling us to wait. All right, your responses here is only exposing Nabu sin, because that's the spirit being. He said the name his spirit being name was Nabu, and embarrassing you who was fallen from grace, which means nothing to noon but negative acts and deeds. You are a selfish individual who is trying to hold on to a spot that does not exist. I am not a part of the Anova Nunray project, which is a subtle attempt of self-glorification and the follow behind Brandon, aka Cheyenne, with the Noon Project. All right, that's a whole nother conversation. All right, listen to reason. We are not con, fool, Vince, Latin meaning name Vince, Latin baby name, American, da 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 da. All right, people with this name have it deep. I just broke all this stuff down. All right, so we keep going. Remember this well, Joel, listen to reason. Please desist this avoidance of verbal meeting between us all until you allow us to engage you in real time. Listen to reason. All those quotes from the introduction to the natures like preaching to the choir. We know that. Listen to reason. You keep dodging the facts. You did admit to being Upu since 2005 publicly and privately to us. All right. So again, what I'm showing now is after the fact that Anova was a hypocrite, and the fact that he specifically had a problem with my name having one in it, because personally he looked at himself as being Upu, which is the second after Unu, right? This is nothing I knew about during the time when I first met him. As time went on and we was in that WhatsApp chat. Hold on. Okay, is that I realized that okay, this guy here is not being forthcoming about what was going on with my name. This is why I keep telling you, you keep running your mouth, Garu, and you don't even understand what the hell took place. So I have to re-educate you because you keep trying to distort my life. This is how we know you just a deadbeat and a dummy, and everything you doing is trying to distort what took place, because you a supreme blasphemer. Now look at the facts. All right. Dodging the facts, you did admit to being Upu since 2005 publicly and privately to us. Here's the proof. Right, 8/15/2013. Listen to reason for the record. Let us show and prove. Right. This is me here, Tarnung Nupu. I have a statement and a question. When I was using the one as my name, I was told that we will receive our number names. So you are number 2 according to your post. So how long have you known? Thanks in advance. Listen to reason. We shall take this slow for you. Listen to reason. I asked you, Anova, how long have you known you were Upu? Second, listen to reason. You said we should okay, listen to reason. You said Anova Nunray said, yes, Ken. I've known since I stood up alone and in self-creation. I was gradually growing, meaning when introduced to the nature came into my possession, I accepted in 2003 from the first word. I had already accepted the 9-ball liberation information, and it all lined up perfectly. So I looked around to see who was with me standing in that truth, mentally resurrected, and I was alone. Only after I came forward with info outfo via New World Order, that's a website, did some see where we were all moving into positive together. Slowly I began to say things like, well, who's Afro Upu? your supposed name did not qualify you because it was not in keeping with Noon and what it says. So again, this is showing you why you have to understand people and why they do the things that they do, and show and explain that if you don't investigate things properly, you won't find out what's behind people, which is spirit being. The same thing we did with Garu. Garu is being influenced by Bacchus, which is the wine god and the narcotics god. And there's different versions of them. All right, it's multiple types of wine gods, narcotic gods, moon gods, sun gods, earth gods, all of that, water gods. So he has, this is the same thing. Again, Noon is an identification sign. So Noon helped me identify this is something wrong here. All right, so watch this. He said, my supposed name did not qualify me. See, this is the funny thing about people. You because it was not in keeping with Noon and what it says, which it was a lie. Because me having the number name, the book already said that our ancestors had already previously was using this stuff when they created it on the Nile River. So that's a lie. Me having the number name was in keeping with reality, because I was one person. The M stand for male, and Nupu was my surname. So how is it wasn't keeping with Noon? One, because I didn't have Unu. I didn't want to use Unu because I seen Unu, and I said, no, I'm not going to put Unu because that would be a contradiction. I didn't want no problem, so I used one in English. All right, no one can give me the answer but Sound Right Reason to who was Afro Upu. Now he lying on Sound Right Reason. That doesn't mean that a Nova Nun Ray is not my name also in self-creation. To know self and name self as high implication, because only you can identify yourself. I published Dog Matters under that proper scientific name in CCY 2007 to the world. That's why they call it the World Wide Web. That don't make no sense. But anyway, the thing is, I let our number naming still a future activity be at the right time, the future in the right place, a physical true culture society, and tank, meaning the African Noon Kingdom is established governmentally and overseen by the right person, my Corey King. All of us will be involved in that event. Listen to reason. You contradicted yourself and was a hypocrite at the same time. All right? 2 years before this, you correctly pointed out I was in error for naming myself a number name, talking about me, one of Newport, which I was ignorant to those quotes because I had not fully accepted Noon then due to the multiple information I was studying at the time. I received the Nature Books 2008 in May when I came to New York. Listen to reason from 2008 to 2012. Listen to reason I was still undecided until after I experienced mental elevation. You had the Nature Books 5 years before me, 2003, and as you accepted them, the words listen to reason, you corrected me 6 years later. From 2005 to 2011, when we had our first phone contact, while you were in manifest error. Listen to reason, you knew according to the Nature Books that number name would only happen in true culture society, yet you were secretly calling yourself Afro Upu amongst other kin without their knowledge. Listen to reason. This also made you a deceiver because you said out your own mouth you accepted yourself as Afro Upu in 2005. Listen to reason. Here are your own words. 8, 15, 13, 2013, 11 o'clock. This is at the WhatsApp group. I know Vanilla Ray. I knew reason in 2005 or so. Listen to reason. You have the double face and turn around and say, in regards to Nubi Reaper, here's another potential, the criteria for being Upu who are not stated. So it's not about predating any of us as far as the knowledge is concerned. Who can say? We will still just have to see at that future activity event. Listen to reason. If you really accepted that we should wait on Afro Uno to name us all, then how can you name yourself beforehand? Listen to reason. Then you state, who can say how the naming will go and then call yourself that, show that you think you can, and did say you were Upu second. Listen to reason. This type of 6 reasoning shows how your spirit personality thinks is special and exempt from the laws of nature. Same thing as Garu. He think he's exempt from smoking weed and cussing and acting a fool against the books and still going along as if he's special. Your own tongue betrays you. And this is why I have asked you to stop typing, because Sound Right Reason keeps showing your twisted reverse mentality. Listen to Reason. You keep speaking in the future as if you have foresight, yet you are delusional. Listen to Reason. You cannot see your own lives. How can you see into the future with a retrograde moon spirit that sees in reverse naturally? You constantly contradict yourself through dictation over and over, Anova. Listen to Reason. All that Jesus teaching has earned you the title Pastor Nova, and we're not amused at your muse of yourself. All right? So then I went into breaking down his name, Anova, right? And this stuff comes out of Nova. Accusative game across a dime, alto, upper main, angstrom, and area. All right? A, also as, meaning the first letter of the modern day English alphabet. Any of the speeches sounds represented by the letter A, first name, any of the speech sounds represented by the letter A, the first in a series, something shaped like the letter A, the best or highest in quality or rank, grade A milk music, the sixth tone in the scale of C major, look at the sixth tone, or the first tone in the relative minor scale, a key or scale in which A is the tonic, a written or printed note represented this tone, a string, key or pipe turned to the pitch of this tone, one of the four major blood groups of the ABO system. Individuals with this blood group have the A antigen or the surface of their red blood cells and anti-B antibody in their blood. Idiom from A to Z completely thoroughly. Nova from late Latin nova, feminine, singular adjective of novus, meaning new. Used with stellar, star, feminine, noun in Latin to describe a new star not previously known. Classical pro is nova. A nova means a or one. Nova equals new or and new. And a nova also means to, well, now that's supernova when a star dies. All right, so basically, I went back and corrected him and showed that he was a hypocrite about this whole number name, because the fact of the matter, nobody has to wait, because our hair also has numbers in them, and people are numbered even throughout. Just like Nupu is what, 999. That because that was the case, then Alpha Una should have put no numbers to Zupu being 666, the moon being 4 ether, the earth being 5 ether, the sun being 6 ether, all of the numbers that run throughout noon science. So that shows that this is why we have to be very careful in reading, taking your turpentine and so forth, and basically standing on your own if you got a family and work with that, because all these people that I ran into, all these individuals want to be the first. They want to be the alpha. They want to be all these things. And they don't see that something is wrong with that. Spiritually, something is wrong with that. Because people want to take this first mentality and then they want to broaden it past their own horizons. No, you may be the first to get the information in your family. You may be the first to get information in your household. You may be the first one to get information in the school that you're at. But it's always somebody who gave it to you. The same thing with Afunu. He would be the first, but Nupu is the primary. And then before that, the one supreme being is odd. So the one supreme being right there, one. So one will always be multiplying itself. Nobody is the very first except the one supreme being. It's just too much ignorance on y'all part. And this is why you're never gonna get anywhere. Because the book tells you it's about self and kind. You must think of all your kind as one, not you, and want to rule somebody. Keep telling you, ignoramus, you do not know my story better than me, and you need to stop lying to your audience and trying to distort my past, because you can't. All of our past are what it is. Too many called peace in wartime.
Exist in degrees on this circle of space, matter, and time. Almighty nature is the one supreme being that exists as all space, all matter, and all time. And when you're saying that different conditions exist, called heaven and called hell, they are actually Almighty nature moving degree by degree, either away from the other or towards the other, or vice versa.